PPT presentation. I would like to share my screen.
Absolutely.
Just give me a little time. Dear friends, as we all are experiencing serious crisis, that is COVID-19, which brought unprecedented problems for human civilizations across the world, economically, socially, psychologically, and in terms of health also. Now, like other community members, students are also adversely affected by the pandemic. As we all undergone the school days, school education are the golden days in the life of every individual during this phase. And during that time, they make friends with peers, enjoy each other's association by sharing personal feelings, joy, sharing interesting experiences and activities, playing with peers, learning through participation in various cultural, academic, and extracurricular activities, including games and sports, in addition to learning and attending regular classes. As we know that positive schooling environment contributes significantly in the socialization process, as well as for the holistic growth and development of a child. However, the lockdown caused by COVID-19 has been depriving children and students from this beautiful and most enjoyable phase of life. Now, quality education at all levels is also badly affected, right from primary school to tertiary level. In India, all schools, colleges, and universities closed down from March 2020 for safety of students, again reopened during November and December 2020. Once again, second wave of COVID-19 compelled educational institutions to close down from February and March. I would like to give an idea about the magnitude of school students in India and the number of schools we have. As you know that India is in the second position in terms of total population, and India is going to overtake China very soon. Now, right now, there are about 1.49 million schools in India, including government-aided, private schools, and average student per school is 178. During 2019 to 20, about 265 million students are taught in the schools. Available data indicates that only 22% of schools in India had internet facilities. Among government schools, less than 12% had internet during 2019-20, while less than 30% had functional computer facilities. However, the functional computer and internet connection facilities vary from state to state in India. It depends on the school education system and the Minister of School Education in every state. I would like to share another important information regarding computer literacy in India. Although the data is little old, 2017 and 18, but it gives a clear idea about the computer literacy in India. It says that about 1/4 of rural youth are computer literate, while it is about 56% in urban youth aged between 15 to 29. From this information, you can make it out the situation, especially computer literacy among younger population in our country. By that time, the literacy rate might have gone in the last 2 years. Now, we did a lot of literature review to understand whether any research was carried out among school students to understand their perspective of online education and their challenges. After a lot of literature review, found that a number of studies were carried out to understand the effectiveness of online mode of teaching and learning focusing on perception of college and university students only. Hardly any study reported the issues and concerns of school students concerning online mode of teaching and their challenges during this pandemic time, even not globally also. Initially, I thought of making a presentation based on my personal experience and observation, but thereafter I changed my mind. I thought, let me generate primary evidence so that I can give a reflection and feel that what is the situation. The reason is that in India, the students and children from rural areas are totally deprived from online education during this pandemic because of obvious reasons: poor financial condition, as well as non-availability of internet connectivity facilities in rural areas. Some teachers, with their personal initiative, they have been conducting online classes, but hardly a small section of students are able to attend the same classes because of non-availability of smartphone or computer at personal level. Hence, in this study, I tried to understand the students who are fortunate, who are attending school in urban areas and who are able to afford an Android phone or computer facility, and try to understand their opinion about online mode of teaching and their concerns. For gaining the evidence, an online study was carried out covering grade 9 to 12 students. For this, we developed a specially semi-structured questionnaire, and there are a number of sections, but for this lecture, I prefer to use the questions which are related to online education only. Some of the questions related to online education include: did you attend the online mode of teaching? How did you find the online mode of teaching? Could you clarify your doubts, ask questions, and got the answers? Did you face internet connectivity or power cut problems? Did you enjoy the online mode of teaching? How do you rate your level of motivation during the lockdown phase for studies? Do you think that you gained substantial knowledge in attending the online classes? Are you satisfied writing the online examination? How do you perceive the cancellation of board examinations? I would like to inform everyone that both primary, secondary and higher secondary board examinations were cancelled by the Ministry of Education for safety of the students. So in this study, 273 students participated voluntarily. Out of 273, 268 reported having attended online classes offered by the school, and accordingly I processed the data. What does the evidence say? About half of the population who participated in the study were male, although their percentage is little more. When you look at the distribution of the students who participated in the study, it is almost equal with little variation, and maximum student from class 12, grade 12 participate in the study. So far as frequency of attendance of online classes is concerned, about 64.1% students stated they attended all the classes, every class online classes. 80% classes were attended by 27.8%, and rest of the student, about 10% could not attend classes, or rarely they attended the classes. Then we try to understand how did they perceive the online mode of teaching. 3.4% reported it to be very effective, followed by 22% effective, moderately effective, reported by 38.8%. So if I combine most effective, effective and moderately effective, it is coming to 60 point something some percentage. So others did not find it much useful. Now, whether the student could clarify their questions and they could ask any question for clarification of their queries, only a small percent said that, not small, about 1/3, 31.7% reported that they could clarify their queries all the time, followed by 26% often, and 26.9% reported that sometimes they could clarify their queries, ask question. Whether they enjoyed the online mode of classes, 12% reported that they enjoyed all the classes. Most of the classes enjoyed by 26.1%. About 11% reported that they enjoyed half of the classes. As I mentioned, that internet connectivity is a problem even in urban belt. It was reported that about 7.8% faced always internet connectivity problem. 17.2 reported facing the same problem often. Sometimes about 50% stated that sometimes they face the same problem. Similarly, power cut was an issue for attending the online classes, as reported by 50%, either always, often, or sometimes. Then we also try to understand the student perception about the difference between online mode of teaching and face-to-face classes. More than 50% reported they find as a difference between both mode of teaching, while about 1/4 reported often they felt that there is a difference between face-to-face classes and online mode of teaching. Now, I would like to share with that despite the COVID lockdown, online classes were going on and students were writing a periodic test following online methodology. So 35% students reported faced problem in writing the online mode of teaching because of internet connectivity problems. Sometimes they could not open the question paper, which was sent to them through mobile or computer, and sometimes they found difficulty in submitting the answer script. Now, a very fundamental question we asked them whether attending online classes helped them to gain substantial knowledge during this pandemic time. 6.3% reported that they were extremely benefited, they gained a lot of knowledge, while 1/4 reported that they gained knowledge. It is true, they gained knowledge, and to some extent reported by 40%. Now, the board examinations were cancelled for safety of the students. The board examination after class 10 final examination, after class 12 final board examinations are very important in career growth and development of every child, because that decides the future in terms of getting an opportunity in good higher learning institution afterwards. So the government decided to cancel the board examination, and that was a controversy. Some people were in favor of that. Some people said it was not a good decision. However, we tried to understand the student perception. Very happy as reported by 16.3%. However, 7.4% were very upset, 10.8% were extremely upset. I think it might be because of some students, they are well prepared to write the examination. And as some students do not write periodic online examination, perhaps with proper seriousness, and they're expecting that when the final examination will happen, they will try to perform best. And for that, they took the proper preparation. Now, level of motivation among school students in studies during this pandemic time, about 9% reported to be highly motivated, motivated reported by 19%, moderately motivated by 35.4%, despite a lot of challenges. And it gives a feel about the academic commitment among 60 to 65% of the students for their better career. Now, we also try to understand what are the issues and concerns which are bothering the students during this lockdown. Now, one issue is that their worries were about catching the COVID-19, and a 14.9% reported they are highly worried, followed by worried 17.9%, worried to some extent reported by 27.6%. The future career is also very important because it's a turning point. From school, they're supposed to go to college. So a larger number of them reported they are very worried. They are very worried about their future career. That is 42.5%, and 28.7% reported they are worried, and 14.9%, 6% reported moderately worried. That psychological distance, social isolation, and attending online classes is always an issue of concern for students, as expressed by a larger number of students. 28.4% students reported that they felt highly stressed because of attending online classes continuously. Because in the beginning of the pandemic, when the online classes started, the teacher did not feel like to give minimum 15 to 20 minutes break in between the two classes. From morning to evening, they used to conduct the classes with an objective to complete the syllabus, thinking that the examination might happen. And that caused a lot of stress for a larger number of students. Social isolation also caused a stress. because we are social beings, we feel like to interact, and students also are missing their school, their friends, and that caused also stress, and a larger number of students experienced highly stressed for social distancing. Now, if we look at the overall findings, the majority of the school students are attending the online classes regularly by using mobile phones, because half of the students could not afford to have a laptop or a desktop. Internet connectivity and power cut problems caused trouble for about 2/5 to half of the school students. However, about 3/5 of students found online mode of teaching most effective and or moderately effective. About half of the students studied the subject every day and most of the days before and after attending the classes. And this is all about called flipped method of teaching, which is found to be very effective. It means the teacher who take the class, they normally, some teachers, they share their PPT with the students, or they give some a link for study material. The students who studied the study material before attending the classes, they found it very beneficial, and that enhanced their motivation level in studies. More than 1/3 enjoyed all the online classes and most of the classes. About 2/3 of the students expressed their satisfaction concerning the online mode of examination, while others were not satisfied as they found it difficult to submit the answer script. Regarding students' motivation in studies, during the lockdown period, more than 3/5 reported to be highly motivated and moderately motivated as they gained substantial knowledge in attending the online classes. At the same time, we found a very interesting picture, as I stated earlier, that cancellation of board examination was not a good news for half of the students. I think they are thinking of performing well when the examination will happen in physical mode. Now, we did a lot of analysis of data, but because of time constraint, I prefer to shares the main salient findings of analysis. Analysis of data indicates that the efficacy of online classes is determined by the economic prosperity of the family in procuring uninterrupted internet access and a congenial home environment where students perceive adequacy in both emotional and crisis-related support. I would like to share with everyone that in India, for internet connection, we need to buy the data card based on 2 GB every day. So depending on the capacity of GB, the price goes up. So every parents cannot afford to spend a lot of money for that, and that caused a lot of problem. Further analysis of logistic factors like internet connectivity, power cut, type of gadget they used revealed the perceived effectiveness online classes is an outcome of internet connectivity. Now, like every study, this study also has number of limitations. One is that the sample size, it is only 268, but with respect to the total number of student population who are studying at grade 9 to 12, the sample size is too small. But this is the only method during this crisis time to get an idea about the student perspective of online teaching. Responses were based on self-report, perspective of teachers as well as marginalized children about education during pandemic could not be captured because we could not reach out to the students who do not have internet connectivity or Android phone or laptop. It was also necessary to understand the teacher perspective, what sort of challenges they faced in taking the classes. Now, there are a number of implications and recommendations I would like to suggest based on the findings. The findings of the study is eye-opener for the Ministry of Education for taking appropriate measures for imparting quality education during similar crises in future. Whereas no government could foresee that this sort of a situation might happen, and they need to develop online educational material for teaching school students. So it is an eye-opener to take appropriate measure for future in order to continue the education. School administrators should develop flexible timetable for online classes. The timetable was very much difficult for students to attend from morning to evening, and it was similar to normal teaching system in the school. Sorry. Teachers should teach with special care, and they need to address students' queries with proper explanation, and for that purpose, a teacher should keep additional time. And here lies the role of a flipped method of teaching. Teachers should prepare themselves well for prior to taking online classes, and PPT should be in brief. And they should also be familiar with the technology for taking classes to make the classes more interesting so that students remain engaged in studies. A teacher should use flipped method for teaching and provide information about teaching YouTube channels. Nowadays, we find that a number of teaching materials are available in YouTube. A number of students are really taking the advantage of those facilities, and it is helping them. After finishing one chapter, teachers should discuss about probable questions and its styles of writing the answer, and also conduct a test, and that might help the student to take proper preparation and to proceed further, staying at home. Other than online teaching, students' stress, worries about future career, and catching COVID to be addressed online sensitively. But this issue was hardly addressed in our country. Only teachers are engaged in teaching only, but their mental health issue was neglected. Special online sessions for parents to be conducted for empowering parents to deal with students' emotion. Here lies the role of a school-based family counseling, that during this time, as parents should be taught or empowered how to deal with the students' emotions so that they do not become stressed, and they can ventilate their emotion also, sharing their personal feelings with the parents. And every school should equip with IT and internet facilities, which is missing, as I shared in the beginning. Hopefully, the new educational policy 2020 will bring remarkable change in terms of implementing school education in our country. I would like to share that the government of India adopted new educational policy 2020 in the line of other countries. Now, in school, students will have an opportunity to choose various subjects as per their interest aptitude. Earlier, they did not have much choice. They had to choose and opt for a particular subject which are available in the school, and which the school decide that one has to study these 3-4 subjects as a group. Now they'll have a multiple options, even at school level also.
Sibnath.
Yeah. In the school also, there is a flexibility in terms of exit. Sometime earlier time, a student has to complete up to class 10, then only they will get the class 10 certificate. Now, before that also they can exit, and they will get a certificate based on their experience, which might help them for further career growth. And vocational education is also given importance. So with this few words, I end over here, and I thank everyone for your kind attention. Thank you.
Sibnath, thank you very much indeed. And you were kind enough to get us back on track by finishing early. I'm sure there's more to say, and perhaps in the question period, which we will go until 9:45, so we have a full 17 minutes for questions. Is there anybody who's raising their hand? Yes, Helen, and then Anemai.
Hi, thank you for this wonderful presentation and with lots of data, and how the online learning has affected students in India. I could imagine how challenging that would be, because I live in the Silicon Valley in California, and we were having challenges during COVID and teaching online, and teachers had to just quickly change their mode of teaching and have to learn as they go. And it was really challenging for teachers here. But I could imagine how it's challenging when you don't have the internet system for all students. And you mentioned that the population that you selected were limited. And so I'm imagining, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the impact of online teaching and it was not able to reach all students and all kids has a huge effect in Indian education. Is that correct?
Yeah. I would like to respond to your, although you did not ask me a question, but you shared your understanding about the scenario. That one big challenge is that we could not, in this study only, we had to depend on online mode of response of the students. Had there been an opportunity, I could conduct, for example, few in-depth interview online. I could meet some students, perhaps we could get a better insight of their perspective. But here you can reach out. One limitation is that I tried to reach out to a larger number of students, but school authority did not allow me to reach out to the students out of a fear that students might express their grievances, that they are not happy with, they are not satisfied with the style of teaching. So a small section of students of the schools who are confident that they're teaching better, reasonably better in the same situation, perhaps those students participated in our study. So I will not say that this, the scenario which I presented, that is a representation of the entire student community. On the other hand, this pandemic created a big division between marginalized children and children coming from well-to-do families studying in a school, paying high fees where they could afford internet connectivity, they could connect students, they could keep engage the students. So in the last 14 months, literally perhaps the marginalized children was deprived from education. There was no intellectual or cognitive development for them. But that is the reality. One has to be accept the reality, but safety is very important. So one can recover the loss of last 1.5 years in future, I'm sure, but life is very important. So we have to accept the reality and see that what best we can do in the given situation.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Anemai, and then Kathy.
Thank you very much for a very, very interesting study. I think that your response to Helen is very important, but it does not change the importance of your study, because in a way you have studied the experiences of students in school who were actually able to attend the online education, right? And then I have two questions, because I think it's so interesting what you're studying. And I come from Denmark, so I'm not quite sure what grade 9 to 12, what age are the students in grade 9 to 12 in India? That's my first question. And the other one is, you had some interesting information about their experiences of motivation. Do you know about their motivation in what we could call sort of usual teaching at the same age and class level?
Yeah. First of all, I would like to answer to your first query that 9 to 12, they belong to 14 to 16 years age group on an average in India. Secondly, the motivation has different dimensions. One is that intrinsic motivation, extrinsic motivation. The students who are with the first trait, that intrinsic motivation, perhaps they were engaged in studies, because motivation comes from your surrounding living environment. All the time you are attending classes, studying, it is a phenomenon for a small number of students. A larger number of students, they want to interact with others, they want to socialize, they want to play, they want to participate in cultural activities, extracurricular activities. From there, they get an appreciation, and that acts as an extrinsic motivation. And that make an individual more determined, and it enhances their grit to perform better. But in this situation, home confinement and interacting with only biological parents or one or two siblings the whole day, and you don't have any opportunity to go out, because most of the students who participate in the study, they are from urban areas, and majority of them are living in a 2-room or 3-room or 1-room accommodation. So there is no opportunity for them to go for much physical exercise, physical activities. Until you have a physical activities, you have a scope for ventilation or exchanging ideas. I think it is very difficult for a child to remain motivated in studies and studying from morning to evening. So I tell you that in this study, we collected a lot of information related to their engagement in physical activities, their coping style, their leisure time activities. So we are writing 3 articles targeting a very good journal after doing in-depth analysis of data. In-depth analysis of data give us an idea that there's a high correlation between economic condition of a child and their motivation in studies. Because the parents who could afford to provide a laptop to a child, they will have less stress because the screen is bigger. A child is attending a online classes from morning to evening using a small screen of a mobile. It causes a lot of stress to their eyes. They feel a lot of fatigue. They do not feel very much comfortable to attend one after another class. Now, for example, for elderly people like us, we decide to have 3 hours or 2 hours session in a day, thinking that it might be stressful for others. But for a child from morning, my son is attending class from morning 6:30 to 7. and then it continues up to 12. After giving 1 hour, then again it goes up to 4 or 5. I do not pressurize him to perform well. I am very much happy that he's coping with the stressful situation. So this is the phenomena. On the other hand, as you rightly mentioned, the teacher perspective, very important to understand. Are teachers motivated, or are they able to prepare themselves well to make each and every class interesting? When you do a face-to-face class, you have a liberty using your body language. You can appreciate somebody's performance, and you can understand from the eye contact whether the child is motivated. But here there is no scope. You cannot see whether the child could follow you or not. So situation is very challenging. But despite that, things are education is continuing.
Yeah, thank you very much for a very interesting contribution.
Kathy.
I too am so grateful, Sibnath. This is just such an important systemic intervention. I think that so many clinicians, so many teachers were so involved with trying to just get through the day and cope with what was going on, that there wasn't a lot of time or opportunity to document what was going on. Mike, and I thank you. I'm very grateful. As we in our topical interest network have been interviewing people, teachers and teams and leaders across the US, we have been hearing somewhat similar information that you have shared with us, but you have documented it, which I think is just wonderful. So I'm really grateful. And my one question is, how do we replicate this with a larger population across countries? I think this is just such important systemic information.
Kathleen, I would like to share with you that if you read the abstract which I shared, which is printed, you will find it is based on my observation and personal understanding. Then I changed my mind. I think that will not be the real reflection. When I talk of a student perspective of online education, I need to carry out a primary research, generate evidence. So I changed my strategy, and that taught me a lot of lesson. So there's a need to expand the same study covering students from other states, because India is a vast country. But the pilot study, which has given us some information, and based on that, I think you can do further analysis and then come out with a number of articles. Then we'll also try to extend the similar study in other cities to understand. And there also we'll try to see, to combine qualitative method, talking to some of the students over phone to get their insider perspective of online education or their challenges, how they feel about the same issue. And also it is very important to understand the teacher's perspective, what challenges they are facing. Yes. My son, I learned that he said that my teachers are not good in internet and computer and setting the system, something like this. The teachers are sharing the PPT, which is not visible, which is not properly made. So hardly anybody examines whether the content shared by the teacher while conducting the classes, is it digestible by a 14-year, 15-year boy or girl or not? Hardly people pay attention to this issue. That is why this issue requires a serious thought, and so that we can prepare ourselves well for future teaching learning process in such a crisis situation. I would like to mention that our government has already announced a number of strategies to strengthen all educational institutions with internet computer facilities in new educational policy. They have given emphasis on that. They have allocated a lot of budget. But now the time we need to see how it translates into action so that it can reach out and no child is deprived from education, because that is their fundamental right.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
We have a question from K.S. Ravichandran.
And Gertina as well. I'm sorry, I took her hand down.
Yeah. The way in which the data presented by the professor was extremely good, and I have few clarification from you, sir.
Yeah.
Whether the data has been collected from the marginalized students, or have you taken as a whole of the school level students?
Yes. Any
Number
other
one.
question, or shall I respond to that one?
Yeah. Number two is, if it is selected a marginalized students, then the perception level of the student seems to be high. When you were from your slide shows the perception level of the student seems to be high. Then this, if you taken the data from the marginalized students, then there is a small mismatching between the data collected from the marginalized students and the perception level, because already you have shown that various difficulties faced by the students, like internet facility, then family does not provide any sophisticated gadgets and other things. So please proceed.
Yeah. First of all, in such an online study, you cannot follow any sampling technique. You just distribute the questionnaire, and whoever responds spontaneously, and then based on socio-demographic background, you can come out that how many are from lower social strata, how many of them from the middle social strata, and then you can do the analysis. Here you do not have any option. So marginalized children in our country, the way we define, I think they do not have an access to online facility of teaching learning process, and they could not respond. I would say that majority of them came from, I would say, middle class or above middle class, who were fortunate to attend the online classes. As I mentioned, that out of 273 students who participated, 268 reported that their school organized online classes, and they only could participate in the study and provided the responses. So in a study like this, it is very difficult to follow any other sampling technique that from each cluster, you select 20% from marginalized, 20% from private school, 20% from government school, 20% from rural urban areas. So that liberty you do not have. So in the given situation, whatever data we get, analyzing that one based on the demographic background, we can come out with this an idea that how many came from what categories. That data also we analyzed.
Yeah, that is the case. Then you are shown the data shown by you is was perfectly right. Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We have questions now from Gertina, Professor Rajendran, and Rita Puga.
Okay, I'll be very quick. I actually just want to say is, I hope in your final analysis that you also look at the differentiation or the difference between the students in terms of grade 9, grade 10, grade 12, 11 and 12, because it would be interesting to know whether the grade 9s had equal worries about career future than the grade 12s. Because the grade 12s obviously are finishing school, they have to go on to university, but whereas the grade 9s might be hoping that there is one more year of face-to-face teaching. So that would just be interesting. I just wanted to make the comment, you don't have to answer anything.
I think I have an answer because I did the preliminary analysis of data. Grade 12 students had more worries and anxiety about their future career. Because if they are unable to write the examination, it might not help them to opt for the course which they wish to pursue for their career growth. They will be given an average score. Now, based on the assessment of earlier online periodic test, a good number of students are not happy with the grade given to them by the board, because that was almost an arbitrary. So every student wishes to aim to perform better in the final examination, and for which they take a proper preparation, that they could not prove their performance.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you. Professor Basanti Rajendran, ma'am. Please unmute.
Yes, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yeah, you were just mentioning, sir, that about your son's experience, in terms of the teacher's perspective and as a parent, what you felt. It's not a question actually, sir, but don't you think that you should also include the teacher's perspective and the parents' perspective of this online education, because it's very important. Because I think now the parents are, having a greater responsibility, especially with the children at the children level. They have a greater responsibility. They're playing I think a greater role as a teacher than as a parent. So I suggest that we should you may like to include the teacher's perspective and the parents' perspective to make your study really give a really findings that will be actually useful for further such whenever we have such kind of I think in the future we'll be going for this online kind of education. So for that, it will be useful. So that's what I would like to say.
Yes, ma'am. I highly appreciate your observation. And that is a very pertinent observation to get the total picture of teaching learning process. Because in student teaching learning process, it is not only the student, it is the teacher, parents, and the family environment. And family living condition are also contributing factors, along with the gadget, internet facility, and laptop and guidance from the students. Now, I tried to reach out to a number of teachers who are teaching, but everybody declined to respond because they said that they are also very busy, they're very stressed because they are engaged in teaching learning all the days. And secondly, you need to have a database to reach out to the school students. And no school authority is interested to share the email or mobile number of the school teachers. That was another challenge. So far as parents' involvement in this sort of studies concerned, again, the challenge is the same. You can reach out to a limited number of parents based on your personal social network. But reaching out to a larger number of parents, you need cooperation from the school authority so that school authority gives some information, means email address or phone number so that you can reach out to them. So there is a possibility from your closer circle, you can think of doing a qualitative research. You can conduct an interview, in-depth interview over phone. If you do an in-depth interview with, I think, 20, 30 parents, I think you will get a reasonably better idea. And that is also very important to get a complete picture of parents, because parents who are arrested at home, they're also stressed because social isolation causes tremendous stress for every individual. But I take you, both of you, all of your suggestions very seriously. I will attempt to cover a section of teachers and parents also to get a holistic picture of teaching learning process during this crisis time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. David, you have David, you are most welcome.
Sir, further to Professor Vasanti's reactions, there are certain section of parents who are, both of them are working. So
We've lost connection.
Perhaps if we've lost connection to David, perhaps we could hear from Rita, who has a question. Yeah. Rita, I will unmute you.
All right, thank you. Well, I want to say thank you. I appreciate your perspective as a parent. I had to sit next to my daughter during her Zoom, and you could see the frustration and the anger all children went through, just because my daughter was in kindergarten when the pandemic hit. And it's a completely different environment. You know, when they're at that age, they want to be outside, they want to be socializing. And it got to a point where we can even see the teacher getting frustrated with the students, because children, you know, they tend to do their own thing, whether it's unmute themselves, turn off the camera, be silly. They are children. And we had to change my daughter. And as a parent, I appreciate the fact that you included that it's the type of environment we create in our home. It's the type of environment the teacher creates, because I tried my best as a parent to make sure my daughter had alternates to not just sitting on the computer, but making sure her interactions when on break, hey, go outside in the backyard, go kick the ball, do not sit just at the computer. And when it came to her teacher, I like the fact that her teacher actually made her students interact with one another. She'll put them in small groups. That way they have some different ways of socializing. But I do believe, like Professor Rajendran said, the teacher's perspective is incredibly important, just because me as a parent saw it through Zoom, and other parents did as well, as we communicated with one another. you could tell that they were stressed and overwhelmed as well.
Thank you. Very good observation. I fully agree. The suggestion given by my colleagues, and I look into this issue how I can explore the teacher's perspective, parents' perspective. Next, applying snowball technique from one teacher to another teacher through personal contact. We'll try to reach out to them. Thank you. And my academic mentor, Professor K. Chokulingam, is here. Dr. Peter, I would ask that my mentor, Professor Chokulingam, is wish to ask me something.
I'm very happy for you to run on, Sibnath. I'm feeling very fortunate because our next presenter is delayed. So please continue this useful conversation.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Oh, okay. At the outset, I congratulate the author, Professor Deb, for having conducted the study on the problems and challenges during the period of COVID-19 in teaching and learning process by online among the school children. As you rightly said, that studies must have been conducted among the colleges and university students, but among the school children, it is maybe an exploratory study. And it is extremely difficult because in the case of school children, the sampling, I do not know. I have probably we can talk later during our conversation. Now, the school children, the schools are located in very small rural areas also, and to what extent the rural schools in different parts of India have been equipped with the facilities of internet facilities, and also the usage of computer, laptop, or smartphones. All these things are very, very difficult questions to answer. And I wish probably I don't know about the details of sampling. Maybe you have very limited time, and within that time you could not cover all those things. And in the case of sampling, maybe some kind of a stratified sampling of different levels of schools on the basis of the economic standards of the town, village. And also, you have already mentioned that private schools and the government schools have been taken. I hope so. But in the case of all other schools, some kind of stratification could help. Maybe, I don't know whether you must have perhaps done, or in your future study, expanded study, that could be taken care of. And another thing you have already admitted, you have mentioned that in the limitations that the sample for such a huge country with such a huge population of students in the schools, just 268 students is a small number. But I consider it as an exploratory study, and you have brought out the real challenges and problems faced by the students by categorizing the responses at different levels. So this is a real eye-opener, and I give my very high compliments for taking up the study. And the left out aspects of the study could be taken in your next expanded study. I wish you all the best.
Thank you, sir. As you rightly mentioned, I also discussed about the same issue, the limitation of methodology. There is a limitation in methodology because you have to rely on only online mode of response and voluntary response. You do not have any liberty because I do not know who will respond in my study. What I did, I reach out to some of the school students as teachers who are my friend, and through them we circulated the online questionnaire in the form of Google form, and whoever participated, we analyzed the data. But this data gives us some idea about the student perspective. But in this situation, online study stratification is very difficult. Only stratification we can do it in the questionnaire itself, that whether you are studying in a private school, government aided school, your economic condition, your class, your gender. Based on that, we can stratify when we analyze the data. And we can analyze the data with respect to socioeconomic and cultural background and school status, whether it's a government, private, rural, urban. But other than this, normally in face-to-face research, when you go to the field, we have an option to adapt our strategy as per our requirement. So here we have to depend on questionnaire designing only, so that when we get the answer, based on the answer, we can easily classify and categorize the respondent.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And we have a question from Inderjeet Singh Sodhi.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
my
you.
name is Sudhir
very
Paloma. Oh, is it my turn?
No, Sudhir. Would you like
Okay.
to speak after Mr. Singh?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm very much thankful to Professor Sibnath Deb, who has highlighted through that study regarding challenges. So within this study, he has highlighted so many issues like motivation, effective study, challenges, as well as for the school children. So my view is that if in the future, if you conduct more study, so you could include some more aspects like whether, as we know, in India, there are so many boards. One is CBSE, Central Board of Secondary Education. Beside that, there is every state, it has own board. So if you have time or you apply such type of method online, if possible, so we can conduct. That is one thing. Another thing is whether which type of gadget they have applied regarding their school study, mobile, laptop or computer, which they have. And third, sir, as we know in India, so a number of NGO as well as institute as well as some students, they have pulled themselves together to help the poor student and marginal student by donating some laptop or computer, so that we could also come to know how they have come out from this pandemic time to give attention on the study. That is my humble submission. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sudhir, yours is the last question and discussion.
Okay. I work with university students, and everyone is talking about the differences between online learning and in-person learning. I have one master's student in education, educational leadership, that's really interested in seeing what the reactions are, both for students, young students. He teaches in middle school, which is 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, in a bilingual immersion program in Spanish. And so he has a variety of students from different language groups and different economic status. And he was interested in seeing both how the children felt about the online learning and also how the teachers did. Some who have many years of experience, some who are fairly new teachers. I think that's interesting. He hasn't come out with his conclusions yet, but I think this interest is happening everywhere. And I also have one student who's a doctoral student in education who is also a psychotherapist. And for him, he was really interested in looking at psychotherapy and counseling. And because so many psychotherapists and counselors are having to work online instead of meeting with their clients in person, he was looking at the difference, since he sees counseling as helping in the moment to solve problems that are ongoing and help people get through the day or get through the year or get through the relationship, whereas psychotherapy is a deeper process, which he looks at as transformative change. And he was interested in finding out if transformative change is really possible with an online therapeutic relationship. And at the moment, I'm reading his dissertation about this, which is very interesting, and he's very brilliant. But also my daughter being a therapist and having to do online therapy, we keep going back and forth talking about it. And my daughter, when she has to do her therapy clients, comes to my house so I can take care of her babies while she does her therapy upstairs. So it's something that is hitting all of us in different ways. And I just wanted to talk about the broadness of it right now during the pandemic. So thank you for your sharing.
Thank you so much, everybody. Gertina, would you like to close us out with a few words of appreciation for Sibnath?
Yeah, I will do that.
Nurit, thank you.
Okay. Dear Sibnath, wow. What a wonderful and outstanding presentation, really. I think you also feel that you aroused interest among all of us. We all have questions. We all want to know more about your research. It's really, really interesting, all of us. You put the spot on an important and relevant issue, and it's relevant to all of us, from the United States to India and Europe and everywhere. We really, really, really need your data, and it was very, very interesting. Does the pandemic really catch us unprepared? Wow, it's a big question. It is issue that concern governments, educators, parents, students, teachers, everyone. Everyone's want to know more about what happened in the schools and in the education. It's our future. Our children, the generation of the children, and it will be our future if they will study or not study. It's very, very important. Your presentation was very informative, wonderful figures and slides, and you gave us a very broad picture regarding the situation in the eyes of the students. And as the other people here said, and you agree with it, it will be great if you can, if you or we together, all of us, can have more information from the parents and the teachers. I want to say that the COVID-19 brought new concept. And we start to talk about online teaching and learning. And we are talking about virtual classes. It's something new. It's something that we did before, and we were supposed to do it, but we have the technology, but we didn't do it before. And it was wonderful to hear you and to hear what you think about it and what the students think about it. And we have something to think about it. I mean, your presentation make me think about several questions. Do we really, what does it mean in normal circumstances? What is it in these days? Or do we really have to stick to the same schedule in school? Can we be more flexible? And do we really need to do online all the schedule that we used to do in the past face-to-face? So I really think that your presentation arise a lot of interesting question and relevant question for our future talking. And I think the role of our role is to identify the advantages and disadvantages of the situation. And that's what you did. Actually, you gave us the base, and from here we can do more research and study and learn from what you already done. So thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.